Arise Guerrilla News show. This is the 19th show. I'm not going to start with any fanfare because I want to have a few minutes to rant and rave on just a few choice topics of the day. Let's put it at that, shall we? So thank you for joining me. I'm in the United Kingdom. I'm in London. It has to be said, I'm here for the first time in 3 years. And I'm pretty aghast at the experience over the last week. I've always had a home in England since the late 1980s, up until about 3 years ago when I decamped at the outbreak of the COVID bullshit. I went to my base in Bali, and I've been based out there on tour in the United States last year for many months. And then in the course of the last year, really, I've been located mostly in the Mayan Riviera in Bacalar in Mexico, where some of you will know I've set into play with a formidable ground crew there, the New Earth Sanctuary Project, which is a very big experiment that we're taking on. Well over 1,200 acres of farm and ranch, and 1 kilometer of Laguna front. We're setting into play a New Earth Sanctuary, which will welcome a population of about 2,500 people, is what we're provisioning for in the master planning. The reason I'm speaking about this is because now is the time. Now is the time for any and all of us to recognize the distinction between the old, dead fiction reality and the emergent New Earth horizon, which is how I refer to the kingdom of heaven. And I don't want to get too cutesy on the subject, but the point I'm driving at is that if we've seen one thing over the last 2 years, 3 years, it is ritual satanic abuse of our entire world population. Sociopathic, psychopathic, spellbinding, dream spelling, orchestration of chaos, of witchery, all around the world. Governments, the multilateral institutions that govern every aspect of our lives, from world trade to human health. Everything is caught up in this confluence of hysteria, planetary meltdown. We just had the death of Elizabeth II, purportedly the Queen of England. Many disagree. Many people who understand true bloodlines and true history recognize that the good Saxe, Coburg, whatever the fuck line it's called, is a Germanic line, Germanian. It is not English by definition or distinction. The fact of the matter is that the Rothschilds infiltrated the British crown, certainly during the time of Queen Victoria, by best accounts, Syed, infiltrated the lineage. We're talking about a Sabbatean, crypto-Jewish Sabbatean element also coursing through the bloodlines. The black nobility of the old crowns and houses of Europe have been and continue to be instrumental in the orchestration of chaos in our world. Davos and the World Economic Forum is their testament in the 21st century. These sons of bitches who meet every year in Davos and who gild the fucking lily, Alpha Omega, spin out the propaganda, orchestrate the rules and regulations and the codices that govern every single aspect of our existence, is all an extension of that black nobility and that Vatican conspiracy. If it comes down to it, that's really what we're talking about. point I'm wanting to get to is that if there's one thing we've seen in the last 3 years, 2 to 3 years, it's been that bedevilment. And because of the mRNA intervention, courtesy of this lethal cocktail that's being pumped into the arms of hundreds of millions of our brethren, there is a steady infusion, in a sense, into the human gene expression of a archonic, lower astral, elemental, demonic intelligences are being given a back door into the zeitgeist, the gestalt. Now, smart people out there listening to this broadcast know exactly what I'm talking about, because you can see it playing out on the streets. Stupid people will be throwing their hot cross buns at the television screen or the computer screen, calling me a Looney Tune. And the religious zealots out there who are pinned to their armchairs waiting for Jesus to save them, having failed, deftly failed to understand the message of the Master Jesus. Well, the point being, we're in a state of civilizational meltdown. We have to now decide whether we stay in the Atlantean model, in the city grid, in the matrix, so to speak, and continue to allow the systemic poisoning of ourselves and our kin, emphasis our children, or we shake out of this carefully orchestrated stupor that we're in at the meta level and get the hell out of Dodge. Get out of Sodom and Gomorrah whilst you can. You know what's coming down the pike if you shut your eyes, listen to the thrum of your human pulse, step into your conscience and your reason. You know what is coming. And believe you me, financial and economic freefall is the very last of the problems that we've got coming. Shortages of water. Nice trick that. Shortages of fuel for heating people's homes this winter all around the world. Wonder who's orchestrating that little piece. The absence of cash. Can't pay for a fucking coffee with money anymore, apparently. Certainly you can't do it in London. I remonstrated with the local bakery down the road here this week because I asked them to warm up a croissant because it was cold. Oh no, we can't do that, sir. We can't heat up your croissant because that's a health and safety issue. I said, what the fuck are you talking about? I've left London for 3 years. I come back. And it is now a health and safety issue to heat up a pastry in a bakery that's a huge franchise. I said, are you people mad? You've fallen victim to our policy. I said, well, screw your policy. You've all gone mad. You're all part of the problem now. And a man in front of me in the queue trying to pay for his coffee was told, oh, we don't accept your card here, sir. No, it's only cash. Again, I leant in to the cashier and said, you're breaking the law. This is called money. It's called legal tender. It's why we created the concept in the first place, so that we could purchase things like a cup of coffee. You're breaking the law. Get your manager here. I'll pull out my law commissioner badge and take a stick to you. I've threatened that action. I'll probably see it through this week as a duty of care to the sweet people who work in this bakery, who themselves are scratching their heads going, what's happening to this world? I think you follow the gist of what I'm saying. We have to make a decision. Do you want to continue to stay in the tailspin of that dystopian Orwellian nightmare, friends? It is coming. It is upon us already. I'm walking around the streets of London. The heart and soul has left, friends. I'm seeing mean, pinched little faces, angry drivers. I'm seeing about 300 or 400% more street signs and lights flashing and speed limits and cameras and surveillance. And this is the cacophony of the devil. We have to make a decision. Anyone interested, go to the newearthhorizon.com. Go and check out what we're building in Mexico and build your own. But now is the time, friends. We don't have much time to be doing this. It's really redolent of Noah and the ark. And this is the time where God speaks to those who listen and says, build that ark and build it well, build it strong. Let me just run you through a few memes here, okay? Just bear this stuff in mind. I think I might be able to, one moment, see if I can put this in here. Boom. 97% of scientists agree with whoever is funding them. And the other 3% are banned from social media, okay? That's a sad indictment. Trans-species man who self-identifies as a deer was accidentally shot by hunters. You think this is a joke? It's a man in South Carolina who self-identifies as a deer. Probably gives him some kind of psychosexual rush. God knows what goes through this kind of perverse mind. He's been transported to hospital by a helicopter after being shot by 2 hunters. Well, that is a bit of good cheer as far as I'm concerned. They should have aimed straighter. Perception is awareness shaped by beliefs control perception. Rewrite beliefs and you rewrite perception. Rewrite perception and you rewrite genes and behavior. I am free to change how I respond to the world. So as I change the way I see the world, I change my genetic expression. We are not victims of our genes. We are masters of our genetics. That's beautiful, and that's from Dr. Bruce Lipton, the remarkable biologist. Oh, so sorry, done this one already. Boom. If you can master and destroy the 13 enemies that you cannot see, egoism, arrogance, conceit, selfishness, greed, lust, intolerance, anger, lying, cheating, gossiping, and slandering, you'll be ready to light the enemy that you can see. I think that's a very powerful meme. Gossiping and slandering. We all do it. It's dirty play. The world is changing. Clean up your act. Start in the sanctity of your own heart and your own mind. Clean up your act. R.I.P. the 2,996 Americans who died in 9/11. We celebrated the anniversary a few days ago, of course. And rest in peace, the 1,455,590 innocent Iraqis who died during the United States invasion for something that they didn't do. And that, my friends, is the uncomfortable truth. And I'm speaking to my beloved brothers and sisters of Middle America, especially to the good patriots. Remember that the patriotism that you foster now is the right kind of patriotism. You're trying to reclaim the Constitution, and you're trying to reclaim the legacy of your beloved founding fathers, and for all that America represented at its genesis point. But remember that you were infiltrated. Remember that you were engineered by these same devils. I'm talking about black nobility, Vatican conspirators, British Crown, the Anglo-American Corporation, and the crowns of Europe. Don't forget that you have caused, through the hegemony of the United States and your imperial might over the last century, you've destroyed the lives of hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not billions, of good humans have been destroyed. And that's not on you or your ancestors, but it is time to own the fact that America was engineered to bludgeon the rest of the world into conformity with an agenda, because the same thing was being done in Russia and in China with Maoism and Stalinism and all of that. It's time for us all to recognize that we are one in that sense, not in the Klaus Schwab sense of a globalist AI transhumanist. We've all got a penis sticking out of our head and 3 breasts like Baphomet, and we all gargle blood in the basement and identify as being Brussels sprouts or whatever the fucking perversity is that's entered your framework today. The point I'm making is it is time for us to recognize the interconnectedness of the human kin, the human family, fellowship being all. We need to get rid of politics, friends. We need to get rid of economics, friends. We need to get rid of governments altogether and the religious institutions, the ones that were part of that perpetuation of a monocultural globalist agenda. Let's just wind this up by having a look at this. What's the difference between California and the Titanic? The Titanic had its lights on when it sank. I think that's pretty appropriate. Lights are going out in California. Lights are going out all around the world. And that's because the old dying game, the petrochemical game, that industry is owned by the same Sabbatean globalists who are orchestrating the quantum reset and the so-called reset, and digitizing our world, turning us into monetized and securitized digital assets. Finally, remember this image of George Bush Jr., the delightful imbecile from Texas. Play with the paper airplane and the felling of the Twin Towers. Remember that painting, friends, was found on the wall of Jeffrey Epstein's New York mansion. Do not forget that, friends. Do not forget also the image of Bill Clinton wearing earrings and a frock and high-heeled shoes and stockings, reclining in a chaise longue in Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. Do not forget, friends. And before I bring on Dr. Charlie Ward's conversation with me earlier, I just want to remember RDS, who died just over a year ago. Robert David Steele, he of the tremendous, brusque ego, the loud, ebullient voice, the sweet, kind, decent patriot, the formidable intellect when it came to analytics, true cost economics, open source intelligence, open source everything, is the true legacy of my friend Robert David Steele, who, alas, is no longer with us. So salutations to Robert in the ethers, and salutations to Kirsten W. I promised when she died that I would always carry this around for my activism broadcast. Why? Because that is what I bought her for Christmas last year when she was flying in to meet me. We were spending Christmas together with Michael Jaco and his beautiful wife and some other friends. And Kirsten never made it. She died on the way to us, collapsed after coming out of the airport. I was never able to give her her Christmas present. So always remembering Kirsten W. there in my broadcasting, and Robert David Steele and our other beloved fallen friends. This is a war. It's been won. It's been ongoing for many years for those of us who've been in the trenches of truth and disclosure. But I'll tell you this much, it's a beautiful thing. And the geometry of now is perfect always and always, friends. Know that to be thus. I want to quickly bring on the media drop that I did a little earlier with Dr. Charlie Ward. Let's watch that. And then I'm going to bring in Scotty Sachs, who's kindly agreed to co-anchor part of the show with me. So stand by, friends. This is the message from Charlie Ward earlier.
How are you, buddy?
Happy to see you. Thank you for being so kind. Jump on, having just arrived at the hotel. I very much appreciate it.
No, but it's lovely to see you.
Likewise. Now you've got that good glow. You've got a suntan. I think you've just got off a plane from Spain.
Correct. Yeah, I've just flown in from Malaga. So yeah, it's still 30 degrees there at the moment. So it's quite refreshing here.
Now, let me guess. There's only two things that I could think that would actually tempt you away from the Spanish sun right now. One would be a huge, epic tranche of gold bullion on tarmac somewhere waiting for your authorization, or something to do with football. I'm just guessing, Charlie.
Just guessing. It's my daughter, isn't it? It's my daughter. She's the manager of Aston Villa ladies football team. And of course, Daddy's very, very, very proud of her. This is the first game of the season at Villa Park against Manchester City, two top teams. And we've been invited in the chairman's box tomorrow. So we should be enjoying. She makes me so proud,
Fantastic.
This is what this whole fight is about. It's about our children.
Yes, I like that, Charlie. It's about family. It's about relationship between humans and humans, and also between humans and the land. The land, of course, was stolen from us by this thing called government over the last 500 years.
Yes, exactly. Well, you were one of the first people that I spoke to that I started looking far deeper than I was, because first of all, I was just to do with the quantum financial system, to do the new financial system. And then I realized there was so much more to it on this journey, because this is all about an awakening. And you were one of the first people that sort of opened up other avenues for me to investigate, which was very exciting. It was over 2 years ago, Sasha.
Yes. Well, thank you for that kindness, Charlie. And you're an inspiration to millions around the world. And I need to say, I mean, you come under the hammer an awful lot. I come under the hammer an awful lot. It's one of the things actually that bond some of us who are on the front line, is this relentless challenge of maintaining the integrity of our own mission whilst being assaulted by rocks at the head from every angle you could possibly imagine. And I have to say that that is, as far as I'm concerned, very much the Christed walk. And all of those of us who like to pretend at truth and disclosure actually need to be able to walk through that hail of arrows and bullets. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I couldn't agree more. What happened to me yesterday, somebody came knocking at my door, threatening me to shut up. Otherwise that they would kill me. And I said, look, I've got no problem with you killing me. It's a first-class ticket to go and see my son. It'd be an absolute pleasure. I appreciate your kindness. And he spat in my face and walked away. And then I thought about Jesus. He was spit upon. And it was a reminder that what we're going through right now, it tests whether you're a man, and as to whether there was one half of me that wanted to punch his lights out, I promise you.
Yeah.
Another half of me that God just said, no. This is just showing who's right and who's wrong, who's doing the good work and who's not. And in the old days, I would have got a baseball bat and whacked him one.
Yeah.
100%.
I hear you. I hear you loud and clear, Charlie. And the thing is, what I'm seeing with this this bifurcation that's happening of people who are seated in their heart frequency and above, and those who are below the heart frequency, which is into the demonic realms. We're talking about the angelic versus the demonic. This is a simple cosmic exercise in the bifurcating of the wheat from the chaff. We are living in the middle of it. We passed through the center of the storm, which was really a Midsummer's Day 2022. This year, in a sense, described the atom seed at the center of that bifurcation. So now you're seeing people around the world who are of the demonic persuasion losing their senses. They've long since lost their conscience and their reason anyway, but now they're losing all senses. The mind, body, and spirit is moving into a dystopian death spiral. And I think we need to brace ourselves to start to see that aspect of the zombie apocalypse begin to play out on our streets. Does that ring true to you?
It does, and people have seen that in the movies before, and now we're seeing it in plain sight. And the one thing that is beautiful that you can see with those people that are connected, that are connected to what's within them, that they're peaceful right now. And the ones that are not are absolutely living in trauma,
right,
panic, fear, and the division now is getting very, very clear. But the one thing that springs to mind is, and I've said it a few times, the light is exposing the darkness. When we were living in the darkness, we didn't see it. It's like going in a cave. It's eerie in there, but you don't know what's going on. You don't see it. But when the light shines, it's like, really, is it that bad? Now we're in the phase where the light is shining so brightly and the darkness can't hide anymore. And we're seeing stuff we didn't even know was there.
Indeed. And I think you're right, Charlie, that sense of groundedness and equilibrium is very much returning to the chosen ones. That by the chosen ones, of course, I'm referring to those people who are standing in the light of their own grace being the benediction that comes with being aligned to one's noble path, to one's conscience, and to one's higher reason, meaning to say relationship with the divine, because a relationship with the divine is a relationship with the higher aspect of self. There's no separation between the two. And that's what we're seeing. So those of us who are feeling very peaceable about this abomination of the dystopian tailspin of governments and central banks and high streets and consumerism and mainstream media and academia. It's all a fucking cosmic clusterfuck. And yet out of that comes what? Comes serendipity, comes this new earth horizon, as I call it. And I'm so glad that you're also speaking to that sense of equilibrium for those people who have already won the battle within. And covidiacy was really the trial, wasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly was. And we're all, every single one of us is being tested right now to make sure that our truth is true. And there's a number of fake white hats that are being exposed right now. They just pretend they're plastic white hats, a bit like the old plastic patriots a year ago.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see who's real. And yes, I have been under huge attack, but I've stood on my truth.
Good.
Stood on, and the one thing I've learned on this journey, I don't know everything by any sense of the imagination. And I try and research things as best I can. And then I pray and ask God for his guidance to try and guide me to find the truth. Because it's like looking for a needle in a haystack right now. It's not easy to find the truth. And you have to go within. And when I was a young lad, I used to look up in the skies and think God was up there. And then I found out that he was within me. And one of the biggest things, Sasha, I learned was to detach spirituality from religion.
Yeah, beautiful distinction there, Charlie. Everyone needs to learn that, because the religiosity speaks to the idolatry. It's very, very dangerous. It actually becomes the greatest danger and the greatest impediment and obstacle to our true relationship with the mystical. Charlie, I know we've got to join your Insider Club in a few minutes' time, so you need to bounce off. I want to get your comments here for the Arise Guerrilla Network tomorrow. So you're kindly doing a pre-record here for my audience. I just want to get your sense of dimension and aspect on the passing of Elizabeth II, Queen of England, not Queen of England. I'm not sure about the true trajectories there. We do know that the crown is part of, it has been very much co-opted as part of the evil empire in recent generations. What are your thoughts on the passing of Elizabeth II?
Well, before we start that conversation, it's important that I point out that up until 3 years ago, I was a huge royal fan. Until I found out what was going on behind the scenes. I was looking at it like most people do from the outside, from what the television says, and I hadn't done any investigation. First of all, on a positive note, the Queen being in that position of authority for 60 years is a major achievement. Then you look at certain things. For anybody who knows anything about, she was very, very clever, very good. Most people in the world were unaware that she was unfaithful in her relationship. And Prince Andrew, who's the guy that's been in the mainstream media, was never Prince Philip's son. He was Lord Porchester's son. And when you start looking at that, you go, okay. But then when I spoke to somebody within the family about it, they said, you've got to go back over 350 years to find a monogamous generation. and yet people look up to these people, Princess Anne was unfaithful. Prince Charles was unfaithful. Prince Andrew was unfaithful. They've all been unfaithful. And that's very, very sad that these people are put on a pedestal as people to look up to. And they're not really people to look up to. It's what the media portray them as. And Prince Andrew, what's happened with him, the fact that the Queen could pay off to silence people should wake people up and go, hang on a second, why are you paying off to cover up what he's done? Why would you do that? Prince Charles is no better. He's been involved in things he should never been involved in. And on top of that, he's already nailed his colours to the flag with the World Economic Forum.
Right.
Which I think is probably a death nail in his coffin.
Yes, indeed. Indeed, Charlie. And that is irretrievable, irrecoverable folly. I would agree with you entirely. But then again, he probably has a 12-ton cannon at the back of his head. I mean, the Crown of England is tethered to the Vatican conspirators and the black nobility, and that is a very, very deep and dangerous well of wickedness. And so one almost sympathizes with these proxy figures like the Charleses and the Elizabeths and even the Andrews to some extent. But very interesting telling. The fact of the matter is that the crown is in a state of dire distress. It's lost its standing in a sense. They're playing out theater right now, obviously making best use of funerary processions and all of that hullabaloo that comes with the public relations exercise of the death of a long reigning monarch. They're going to play that public relations to the hilt. They're then going to play out the theatrical production of the coronation of King Charles. And then, of course, it's all going to be about countdown to William, the real king in waiting. And so there's a whole bunch of theater now that the Privy Council, the civil servants, and the crown agents can all busy themselves with continuing that dream spell. Isn't that correct? I mean, that's the bottom line. We're going to see it propped up for another game or two.
Yeah, I think we're going to see it play out. We're going to have a very interesting weekend this weekend. There's going to be quite a bit happening over the period of the weekend, including Monday, Tuesday, because of the simple fact that Monday's a bank holiday in England. And there's a lot financially that's happening behind the scenes. I'd be very, very surprised if Charles stayed in his position for very long. I think he will abdicate fairly quickly. And there's also the news coming out of Australia that he had a son with Camilla many years ago who was put up for adoption immediately. And the lady who was responsible for the adoption on her deathbed told the young child in Australia who his blood mother and father were. And he has since done his DNA and has put it on the table and said, fine, if you're going to deny it, let's do a DNA test. I don't know. I wasn't there. But it's going to be very interesting. These things are going to unravel.
Yes.
So there's a number of aspects that are going to change things. And
yes.
We will see exactly how much it changes and what happens. For me, it's very easy to get obsessed by these sort of things. And my focus is myself, to make sure that my position is clear and right. The protection of my wife, my family is important, my children, my grandchildren, to provide a safe environment for them. It's very easy to get distracted by everything. I'm just glad that I don't watch the television at all. Somebody sent me a clip of one of the guards guarding the Queen's body as he collapsed in front of plain sight, in front of the coffin. This is all part of the pantomime to wake people up.
Indeed.
That wasn't a mistake. That was done to wake people up.
Very good. Charlie, you've got 2 minutes before your Insider Club broadcast begins, so I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you for addressing the Arise Guerrilla audience. Much appreciated to you, brother. And I'll see you in 2 minutes. All right. Bye.